Good morning. I'm Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, and we're here today to discuss the attempted murder of Pinellas County Sheriff's Corporal Matt Aiken and Sergeant Jake Viano on March 12th of 2023. We're going to today release the body-worn camera video of the shooting. Both Corporal Aiken and Sergeant Viano, who shot and killed the suspect, Zion Bostic, were wearing body-worn cameras at the time of the incident, and the entire situation is captured on video. Corporal Aiken and Sergeant Viano are also both here today to answer any questions that you have. Corporal Aiken has not seen and does not want to see the video, so they're next door, and we'll bring them in once we're finished and showing and explaining the video. So I also say that to remind you that you're going to see the video. Corporal Aiken has not seen it, so just keep that in mind as you ask any questions of him. Corporal Aiken and Sergeant Viano are here because we received several media requests to interview them, and this is in lieu of any individual interviews. After today, they will not be available for any further media interviews. Our Public Information Office will provide you with copies of the video that we're going to release today. The videos that we are releasing today is a composite video of the entire videos that recorded on Sergeant Viano and Corporal Aiken's body-worn cameras. We're not releasing the raw video because it's frankly raw, and some of it is inappropriate to release. After Bostic shot Corporal Aiken immediately fell to the ground. Corporal Aiken was unconscious and he was not breathing. Corporal Aiken only survived because responding deputies and later relieved by paramedics performed CPR on Corporal Aiken. Watching deputies perform CPR on another deputy who was not breathing after being shot is really hard to watch, and something that nobody should ever have to watch, and that is what we are not releasing today. In too many situations that we respond to, there are questions about why things unfolded the way they did in a situation, and we try to figure out why things lined up so wrong and led to a law enforcement officer's death. This situation is just the opposite. Things lined up the right way in a very bad situation, and with the slightest changes to the events, Corporal Aiken simply would not be here today. It's only because of the actions of Sergeant Jake Viano, K-9 Taco, and the life-saving measures of his fellow deputies, Pinellas County EMS, and the medical staff at Bayfront Health St. Petersburg that Corporal Aiken survived. I'm going to summarize the events. I'm going to play the video, and then we'll bring in Corporal Aiken and Sergeant Viano, as I said, to answer any questions that you have. So here's what happened. On March 12th, 2023, at about 6:50 p.m., deputies were dispatched to a vehicle burglary call at 6371 60th Avenue North in the Lellman area of unincorporated St. Petersburg. A citizen reported seeing Bostic break into cars in the area. Bostic was carrying a backpack and he was wearing gloves. A citizen followed Bostic to the Grace Brethren Church, located at 6300 62nd Avenue North. The citizen saw a deputy in the church parking lot. That deputy had responded to the burglary call, and the citizen identified Bostic as the suspect in the burglaries. The deputy saw Bostic jump a fence near the residence at the rear of the church, so deputies established a perimeter and called for K-9. Corporal Aiken and his K-9 partner Taco are the ones that responded at the request for K-9. Sergeant Viano is a patrol sergeant, and he was working in an area that is north of where this was occurring. And Sergeant Viano is a former K-9 deputy. This is where, for those unexplainable reasons, and they truly are unexplainable in the right way in this case, that things lined up right as opposed to wrong and led to Corporal Aiken's life being saved. Sergeant Viano heard what was occurring on the radio, contacted Corporal Aiken, and decided to leave his assigned area and head to where Corporal Aiken was going to begin the K-9 track. Upon arrival, Corporal Aiken was getting ready to begin the track, and Sergeant Viano decided to run the track with him. Most times, K-9 handlers run tracks without another deputy being with them. As they began the track and watching it, it was what you would call a good track. It was solid. They were on it the whole way. And it led them to a fence around the backyard of a residence at 6385 60th Avenue North. In this area of all of where this occurred is depicted in the map on my left to your right, and you can see where the canine track began and where it ended. As you'll see in the video momentarily, when Corporal Aiken and Canine Taco arrived at the fence, Taco was alerting to the backyard of the fenced residence, and they had to go over the fence. They were followed over the fence by Sergeant Viano. As Corporal Aiken and Taco moved through the backyard, Corporal Aiken saw Bostic appear from around the corner of the house, and Corporal Aiken immediately identified himself and gave Bostic commands to show his hands. Instead of complying with those commands, Bostic moved back out of sight, concealed by the house, and waited with his gun out to ambush and shoot Corporal Aiken as he moved west along the side of the house. Again, this is where things lined up for the good guys in some good and unexplainable way, because there was a slight delay in Sergeant Viano going over the fence. That slight delay put just enough distance between Corporal Aiken and Sergeant Viano that when Bostic shot Corporal Aiken and then fired on Sergeant Viano, that Sergeant Viano had enough reaction time to hit the ground, get up, allow Canine Taco to bite Bostic, and then shoot and kill Bostic. If Sergeant Viano had been tight with Corporal Aiken, Bostic likely would have ambushed, shot, and incapacitated both of them instead of just ambushing, shooting, and incapacitating Corporal Aiken. It's also highly probable that if Sergeant Viano had not been with Corporal Aiken on the track, that once he was shot and incapacitated, and Corporal Aiken was laying on the ground, not breathing, that Bostic would have shot Corporal Aiken additional times. Because of Sergeant Viano's presence, Bostic was forced to turn his attention to Sergeant Viano, and then he fired on Sergeant Viano as opposed to firing additional rounds into Corporal Aiken. Another significant factor and hero in saving Corporal Aiken's life and allowing Sergeant Viano to avoid being shot is Canine Taco. Canine handlers train a lot with their dogs for the gunshot scenario, but one never really knows how the canine is going to react in the real situation. Here, Canine Taco reacted exactly as he was trained, and upon Corporal Aiken being shot, Canine Taco immediately engaged Bostic. Bostic, at 23 years old, had been arrested 18 times on 34 felonies and 22 misdemeanors. He had failed to appear in court the week before the shooting, where he was due to be sentenced to a 5-year minimum mandatory on another burglary charge. Bostic had told family members he was never going back to state prison, and at 23 years old, he had already served 2 stints in state prison, one beginning when he was 17 years old. At the time of the shooting, Bostic had active warrants outstanding for his arrest for burglary and other felonies. Bostic had 2 guns on him, one semi-automatic 9mm, which is the gun he used to shoot Corporal Aiken, and a .380 caliber semi-automatic in his pocket. Both guns were loaded, and Bostic had 126 rounds of additional ammunition in his backpack for both guns. Both guns had been previously stolen in car burglaries, one in Manatee County and one in Marion County. As the video will show, Corporal Aiken immediately fell to the ground after being shot. We have blurred him out while he's lying on the ground in the video, as you'll see here in a second. Corporal Aiken was shot 3 times, once in the leg, once in the wrist, and the most serious shot was to his neck. Bostic shot at Sergeant Viano 3 times, and Sergeant Viano returned fire 5 times, killing Bostic. So I'm now going to play the video. In this video, again, it's a composite, and you'll see it identified as the body-worn camera first of Corporal Aiken. Then you'll see, in real time, the body-worn camera of Sergeant Viano. You'll see a segue, and it'll transition into some still frames, and we isolate Bostic with a gun and some other things that weren't being isolated and shown. During that second part of the video, it may stop it. We'll see how it goes and as it's playing so that you can get the full understanding of what happened out there. So we'll play the first all the way through and play the second and perhaps play it again. We'll see how it plays out here. So ask Deputy Breen to go ahead and play the video.
Down. 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 You hold that one right. Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Sir, don't care. Stop! Stop! Come on! Down. Down. Go around. No, please not. Got challenge. So you're here, get your hands down like steel!
Good stuff. So as you can see here, at this point, you can see here to my right, the board out on the ground is Corporal Aiken after he's been shot. He's unconscious, not breathing. K-9 Taco had apprehended Bostic, and Sergeant Viano had shot him at that point. So as you can see, where we're bringing you into this is when they, after the track, got to the fence. And as I explained, Corporal Aiken went over first. Slight delay, Sergeant Viano goes over. And what you're gonna see now in the slowdown and the still frames, you're gonna see where Bostic was at the corner of the house. He was given the commands. Corporal Aiken identified himself, and you can see how he had come out from the corner of the house. After being given the commands, he ducked back in, and he sat there waiting for Corporal Aiken and ambushed him. And you can see how he raised the gun. And then at that point, after Corporal Aiken went down, he turned the gun. And when you, on that original video from Corporal Aiken, of course, he's wearing the body-worn camera, and after he's shot, and where you see him is he goes down on the ground, and of course the video's still recording, so when you see it go down, that's him laying on the ground after he's been shot. So we'll go ahead and continue it.
Get your hands up! Get your hands up! Sir?
So there's Bostic. He's giving the commands.
Stop!
Yeah, stop it right there. So you can see, as I said, Corporal Aiken gave him the commands. He went back behind the house, and he was sitting there waiting. And you can see right there is where he ambushed him when Corporal Aiken went forward. And what you would hear from Corporal Aiken is what he thought was going to happen, which has happened hundreds, if not thousands of times in these tracks when the K-9 handlers are encountering the situation, they give somebody commands and they duck back behind something, a house or whatever that cover is, usually they're taking off. And what he expected when he kept going was to see Bostic running through the yard and he was going to release Taco. But obviously what he encountered was a guy who didn't want to go back to prison, who was sitting there with his gun extended and was intent on killing a cop. All right, go ahead.
Down.
Just stop it there. So at that point you can see, and as I said, he had shot Corporal Aiken. He realized Viano was there. The dog was engaging and preparing to engage, but before the dog engaged is when Bostic was shooting at Sergeant Viano. And that's what you see right there is him shooting at Sergeant Viano. Go ahead.
So you're here, get your hands out like shit.
All right, so as to the facts, we'll bring in Sergeant Viano and Corporal Aiken. As to the facts at this point, do y'all have any questions for me on the facts?
I would just ask, how important was what Taco was doing to prevent Bostic from taking really, solid aim at Viano and he couldn't get away?
Huge. And this is where, sometimes, as I said, and I can't explain it, nobody can, why this sequence of events lined up on the right side as opposed to the wrong side. In other situations, I've been standing here in front of you talking about whether it's Magley or Hartwick or others, and other police chiefs and sheriffs are sitting there telling you, I don't know why this went so south, I don't know why it went wrong, and it did. But this is another example of how this situation, and Corporal Viano, who's walking in now, is able to walk in here because of everything that lined up right, including Taco. And if it hadn't been for Taco, and Taco hadn't been there, no doubt in my mind, this would have been a very different outcome. And the fact that Taco was able to engage Bostic is that it made a huge difference, made all the difference, and allowed Sergeant Viano to do what he was able to do, and eventually being able to kill Bostic. So, K9 Taco is as much a hero in this as anybody else. So this is Corporal Matt Aiken, Sergeant Jake Viano. They're not going to make any statements, but they're here to answer any questions that you have. And make sure, Matt, if you would just hit the. It's on. Okay. All right. Okay. Good. Good. All right. So if you guys have any questions, they're here to answer any questions that you have. Just remember that Corporal Aiken has not seen the video.
I would just ask how you're doing.
I'm doing well. I have 3 doctors that are all now working together and communicating on me getting better. There's some complications in my neck, some swelling in my spine that's causing some nerve issues, but it was nice to hear all 3 doctors said that they see no reason why I won't make a full recovery. My hope is within 6 months I'll be back working the Taco again.
What did you, you kind of, sort of, Viano, saw everything from your perspective as it all unfolded. Can you just take me through what you saw as this happened?
Obviously, how we were able to identify the bad guys, I was running behind Corporal Aiken and he challenged him from the corner of the house. At that point, I looked to the corner of the house and I was able to see just a little corner of his body with an extended hand and gun pointed directly at him.
And then
immediately, once I identified him at that point, 3 shots were discharged by him. At that time, I'm at a full sprint and I'm trying to unholster myself. But before I was able to get my gun out, he pointed toward me. And once the gun pointed at me, I knew that I was behind the 8 ball at that point. So I just planted my right foot, jumped left behind some debris that was behind the house. And once I was able to unholster, he had his opportunity and it was going to be our turn.
Sergeant Viano, what area were you patrolling when you heard that, Corporal Aiken needed help? What exactly did you hear on the radio that said, I need to get up and get over there?
Yeah, so it was a vehicle burglary that was dispatched. I was working Squad 2, which is north, and I was in the area of Bryan Dairy and 66th Street. And I knew that it was in the northern part of Squad 1, so I wasn't too far away, but it was an area I wasn't assigned to. But the call started to lengthen out. We started getting fresh sightings. We knew that the guy was running through backyards, and I knew our resources might be dwindling. So I thought, no, let me go back. I'm just going to help with perimeter, is what my original thought was. Get an extra car, another area to get into the area. And when I got down there, we had a fresh sighting. I was close enough, and Matt wasn't on scene yet. And since it was close to a wooded area where the guy was last seen, it was a good chance that he might be bed up in that wood area, and we were going to need another pair of hands. And so I offered to run with him.
Corporal Aiken, what do you remember about how that day was? Is it everything? I mean, are there bits and pieces? What do you remember?
Yeah, I've not seen the video yet, but I spoke with the sheriff from the hospital and relayed my recollection of the video, and he told me, you're spot on, you probably don't need to watch it. I remember everything up to the point when I saw Bostic. He peeked out between houses and then went back the other way. I've seen that 100 times. A guy seen him coming close, takes off running, so in my mind I was gonna around the corner, see him running away, and I was gonna send Taco on him. When I rounded the corner, he already had the gun pointed at me, and I had zero time. I can't tell you if I released Taco intentionally or the shots happened so fast that I dropped the leash. But luckily Taco's training. He did exactly what he's been trained to do. But yeah, 100%. I remember seeing the back of the houses, and when I was on the ground, I actually thought I got shot in the head, and then I passed out, and then I woke up screaming for Jake, because Jake's been my mentor all through K9 when he was a K9 handler, and I thought Jake was dead. So I remember everything up to the point that I woke up, and then once I start getting drugs on the medic, I don't really remember much after that.
Corporal Aiken, just knowing that this was a suspect who had such a lengthy criminal record and who appears, was willing to do whatever not to go back to prison, just how thankful are you to be here today and, able to even share these comments?
Yeah, I'm very grateful. There's no doubt that God worked his way between Jake and I. Jake was working a separate area. I think when he heard that I was coming, Jake and I have had a relationship for 15 years. And, we ran, when he was K9 with his two dogs, I always ran with him and vice versa. So we've caught a lot of bad guys between each other. We were talking last night between the two of us, we've probably caught close to 500 bad guys here. I'm very grateful to be here. All three of my injuries, between the leg, wrist, and the neck, all three of them missed anything vital. It's nothing short of amazing that I'm still here. In K9, we know that if the bad guy hears you and sees you, if he wants you, he's got you. It's just the dangers of K9. We swallow that bitter pill because that's the job. There's a lot of bad guys out there, and they want to, run away because they're afraid of going to jail and prison. And luckily, we have the resources between K9 and the helicopter to find these guys. My family recognizes the danger of me being in K9, and we swallow it because we trust the dogs are going to take care of us, and our backups are going to do what they do. This scenario, we've ran this scenario, and I've taught this scenario as a trainer thousands of times. It worked out exactly as it was supposed to. We understand as the handler, you're probably not going to make it through the ambush situation. Just by the grace of God, I survived the ambush. So I'm very grateful and very anxious to go back and start catching more bad guys again. It's the only thing I've ever been really good at, so I'm ready to go.
Okay, you got one over here.
Can you speak to your relationship with Taco and the kind of trust that you guys have together?
Yes, so Taco's my second dog, and my first dog I still have. He's 13. When I run K9 schools or I teach junior handlers, I tell them that this dog is not your friend. He's not even your partner. This dog is a subcontractor to go find bad guys. Because you do have to have that separation a little bit, because there might be a time where you have to release your dog and you might not get him back. That's what we say, deep down when we don't talk about it at parties. That dog is my brother. I saw him on Tuesday, and that was very intense. It's the first time I've seen him since the hospital. He's coming back home on Friday. My wife and daughter miss him, and we're ready to have him back. This has changed our relationship. I'm not bashful of correcting him when he needs it. to keep him doing the job he needs to do. But, you know, Taco did what he did because he was trained to do it. And the training involves the entire canine unit, you know. I can't teach Taco to fight. The guys that wear the bite suit and the muzzle, and the bite sleeves and all that, they taught Taco to fight. So canine is a team sport. So I can't thank the members of the canine unit enough for helping me train Taco to do what he did. And I'm confident every dog in our unit would have done what he did. But as far as me and Taco and our relationship, it has changed quite a bit. I would not be here, and I would argue that, you know, Sergeant Viano would not be here. Taco doing his job gave Jake the opportunity to put, you know, rounds on target. And both of us are eternally grateful for that dog. So, yeah, our relationship is never going to be the same.
Sergeant Viano, I mean, could you just kind of address that also, just the fact that, you know, had Taco not done what he done that?
Oh, yeah. If it wasn't for the training that Matt has put into the dog, what the unit's done, for the dog to react the way he did, for me to have been an experienced handler and understand the dog's reaction, I think is why this all played out the way it was. I think the only reason why that suspect missed me was because of the dog engaging him when he did. Obviously, my body camera doesn't see that, but it's apparent that that dog was going to do its job while he was trying to kill me. So thank God for, we're both very blessed. I think it worked out the way we would hope it could. But yeah, if it wasn't for Taco doing what Taco does, and we'd have a different story today.
And what does this say, what does it say about what you all deal with on a daily basis, and the danger that you face?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is we in law enforcement, we're always anticipating the worst, hoping for the best. This was the worst, and we, fortunately, the way we're trained, we're prepared for that. And you know, even your preparation may not, action's faster than reaction. Your preparation only gets you so far. But to be as long in the career as we are, and to dress every day, going out, expecting all these different scenarios and those worst case scenarios, and you're hoping to find the best. And it's a different way of living that we have to do. We go home, when we get home every night or in the morning, so after working all night, and we think to ourselves, thank God everything went good today. You know, we can check that one off, that everything worked out today. But you're always on edge. It's the career we chose, that you're always expecting the worst and hoping for the best.
What-
Corporal Aikens, what does it mean to you to see just the outpouring of support from the community, especially, you know, with that video of you walking out of the hospital and, you know, following this event? Just any message, you know, to people who have been sending out prayers for you?
It's overwhelming, because you do get jaded in law enforcement. You do see the worst of people. So to see the outpouring of support, you know, one from, you know, I've been a deputy for 17 years, and so the friendships and relationships that I've made just within the agency that you forget about. But you know, my phone has been nonstop, and the amount of cards that have come through. You know, just prior to coming out, the sheriff dropped off a pile of cards just from people who have never met me that just want to support. So it's overwhelming. I'm very thankful for that support.
That's been very touching too. And we see it every once in a while. We've worked midnights for a long time, so we don't get to have contact with the general public a lot. You know, they're usually asleep, and their day starts when we're sleeping. So we don't get to see a lot of that, the support that we do have in this community. And through this, so many people have reached out to us both, and it's been very humbling, and we're very grateful for it.
I think we are very fortunate here in Pinellas County to have a lot of community support. We appreciate that. And, you know, but what the general public also needs to know is that law enforcement is good. Law enforcement officers are good people. Doesn't mean that we're perfect. Doesn't mean that sometimes things go wrong. But that's life. And it doesn't matter what the profession is. And you got a whole lot of people that do this because they care, they want to make a difference, they want to make sure that others are safe and can go about their business on a daily basis. It is guys like this that are out there. These are the absolute majority. And every profession has its one-offs. And unfortunately, the attention, notoriety, discussion, especially I guess the last few years, is focused more on the one-offs. Let's not focus on the one-offs. Let's focus on the majority, the absolute majority, who are doing the right thing for the right reasons. And law enforcement in this county, in this state, in this country, law enforcement's not broken. Law enforcement's good, and there's good people doing the right thing. And we'll deal with those who aren't, but it's no different than any other profession. You know, and I think that's really important for people to understand. All right, anybody have anything else? Yeah. All right, thanks, we appreciate it.